Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Good morning everyone. So today's lecture is going to be on the capillary flow or flow in porous media. So till now whatever you have seen were time independent systems or steady state flows. Today what we are going to discuss is a time dependent system. And also, so when you see the Navier-Stokes equation, you can drive the flow either by body forces or by inducing a pressure gradient using a pump, or you can make a non-homogeneous boundary condition like having a moving wall, as you have learnt in the previous class. But without any external driving force, can you drive the flow? So one way of doing this is by using the nature of surface tension. So you all know when a liquid surface is curved, there is a pressure difference across the interface. For example, I have a tube here and there is a liquid interface, like liquid has come till here. So how can I make it curved? When I make this surface hydrophilic, so there are forces, attraction forces between the molecules in the liquid, that is cohesive forces. But if I have attraction between these molecules and the surface molecules, if this force is more than the cohesive force, then there is a chance that my the edges of the liquid are pulled towards the surface, and then it creates a curved surface. So like this, if I say this is P1 and this is P2 on this side. So I will be interested in what is this P2 minus P1, okay? What is P2 minus P1? And also when will my flow happen? If my pressure is P inlet here, Pi, only if this Pi is greater than P1, my flow will happen and this will move forward, okay. So focusing on what is the pressure difference across the interface. So you all know, for example, assume this is the radius of curvature RC of a surface. This is a liquid surface and this is ambient air. Then for an infinitesimal change in the volume, the work to change the volume will be written as so let me explain here. I am changing the radius with a change as delta R. So for this much change in the radius, I am multiplying the pressure difference, whatever is acting to make the change, P2 minus P1 into delta R into dA, because I don't have the force, so I am getting the force by multiplying with area. And also, why is it P2 minus P1? Because my P2 is pushing it outward and P1 is pushing it inward. So in a way I can understand, like based on the direction of the normal vector. So that's how I have written this work. And also the work due to the surface tension, which is like the force between the molecules of the liquid, that will help us write as sigma delta A, which here sigma is my interfacial tension and delta A is a change in the area because of this work. So this, if I integrate, I can write it as, this part I am saying as delta V. So I am writing it as P2 minus P1 delta V. So at equilibrium, I will have these two works equal, and I can write it as P2 minus P1 delta V is equal to sigma delta A, where for a spherical surface, I will have this area as 4 pi RC square here, and that is why my delta A will be 8 pi RC into delta RC, and my volume is given as 4 by 3 pi r cube. So when I insert in this, I can get my pressure difference as RC, 2 sigma by RC. So you all know this is Young-Laplace law, right? But if when it comes to the channel, this will be my radius of curvature RC. So I can't measure that radius of curvature. So I want to express this RC in terms of the known terms, which are my radius of the tube and contact angle. So here, if I see, this is my contact angle theta. So how do I write this? I want to write this like, so this is RC, this is my R, okay, this is my theta, so this is 90 minus theta, and again this is my 90 minus theta. So I will get my sine of 90 minus theta, which is cos theta is equal to R by RC. So from here I take the expression for RC as R by cos theta and substitute there. So the delta P is written as 2 sigma cos theta by R. So what we were talking was this difference in pressure can be used for driving the flow. But when will this be high enough that it can drive my flow really? So when my R is very small, when the tube radius is very small, then it can help me to drive the flow. So that's why this only happens in tubes which have very small dimension, which are called as capillaries here. So you can see these things occurring in natural phenomena, like in plants we see the transport in the xylem, or else the transport in the blood veins, like not when they are very big but very small, then the capillary suction will be happening in the blood vessels. One of the industrial application of this is flow in porous media. So porous media is basically all these capillary pores are interconnected, and that's why the flow will occur. One of the successful application of this is paper based sensors. So recently they have developed paper based sensors, which are basically just like a piece of paper, and without any driving force you can drive the flow. So you can use it on site wherever it is needed. Without any use of the lab, you can drive the flow. For example, classic example is your pregnancy kit. So in that, you just put the sample and you don't need any external pressure difference you have to apply, right? And also it is easy because you have the reagents already inside the paper, and you just have to put very small amounts of volume because your tubes are very small radius. You don't need more amount of the sample also. So that's why they have emerged a lot in recently. So base sensor. So to study the flow in porous media, first we have to focus in the flow in a single capillary, right? So that's why today we are going to study the dynamics inside a singular capillary. So consider a cylindrical tube with a diameter of d, which is in the orders of micrometer, and suppose the liquid has come till here, and this is P1 and this is P2 with an inlet pressure Pi. So this inlet pressure can be in the most cases it can be same as P2, which is atmospheric pressure. So my difference Pi minus P1 will of course always be greater than 0, because here we see P2 is greater than P1. So that's why. Whatever assumptions I can take here are, this is axis symmetric flow. So I define the axes are z direction and this is radial direction, and in the way theta direction. So across the theta direction it is symmetric, and also in the z direction I am assuming my cross section is the same in throughout the z. So that's why there is no variation in the z direction. There is no velocity variation in the z direction. So here I have u theta is 0 and dou by dou theta is 0. Because of uniform cross section, I have dou u by dou z as 0. When I write the equation of continuity, because this is in cylindrical coordinates, I will having this as 1 by r. This is my equation of continuity. In this, the third term is 0 because of the uniform cross section assumption, and my second term is 0 because of the axis symmetric assumption. Then I am left only with this term. When I integrate this term, I will be getting ur as C1 by r. So with my boundary condition as no penetration at r is equal to capital R, which is like d by 2. So that's why my C1 will be 0. So what I get from here is UR is equal to 0. So finally my radial velocity and my theta direction velocity both are 0. So I am having a unidirectional flow here. So coming to the momentum equation, in the z direction. Okay, first we will discuss in the r direction and theta direction. So in r direction, all the inertial terms are containing the ur, so they are all 0. Only thing I am left with is dou p by dou r, and there is no gravitational force in the r direction, so it is 0. So only thing I will be left with is dou p by dou r 0, and also in the theta direction, this will be there in my both r and theta direction. Coming to the z direction, so since my diameter of the tube is very small, so my Reynolds number, which is given by Re is equal to rho v dB minus, this is also in the orders of 10 power minus 5 something. So because this is very small, my inertial forces can be neglected in my momentum equation. So that's why I make, so the flow is laminar in capillaries because Re is of the order of 10 power minus 5. So I have my left direction thing as 0 equals to minus dou p by dou z. My z direction theta, like momentum equation, will be minus dou p by dou z plus 1 by r dou by dou r, r dou ur by dou r plus square so this is my gravity term, this is my pressure gradient term, and these are my viscous forces. Here dou by dou theta is again 0 because of the axis symmetric assumption, and this is also 0 because of the uniform cross section assumption. So I am left with this and these terms. So I see this is all the driving forces, the pressure gradient and the body forces. Here these are viscous terms. We can see this is completely a function of z, and this is completely function of r. So you have learned the separation of variables technique in the math course. So what we say, this is equal to constant some beta. So first I want to solve this equation where I write d by dr on integrating this, I will be getting du by dr. So this equation I will be getting. So what boundary conditions I have right now are uz is equal to 0 at r is equal to r because of the no slip boundary condition, and at r is equal to 0 I will have the axis symmetric assumption already. So because of that my duz by dr is equal to 0. By applying these in my uz equation, I will be getting, because of this boundary condition I will be getting C1 is equal to 0, and because of this boundary condition 0 is equal to beta by mu r square by 4. So this is similar to my Hagen-Poiseuille equation, but the assumptions are different in this system. So that's why I have derived the completely, because my assumptions are different here. So okay, I have got this, fine. Here this beta is my pressure gradient. So I can express this beta in terms of the pressure equation I have on this side. So I have dP by dz is equal to minus rho g z is equal to beta. Sorry for the mistake. This is z direction. So here I write this as okay. So this is a gradient. So I know the pressure difference, but the gradient is defined based on the length of the front. So I have the cylindrical tube, right, where my front has come. So this is L of time, which is my front length. So I am expressing the pressure difference between this point and this point. So this pressure difference by front length is what I am representing using this equation where I have L. But I am assuming this P inlet is also equal to the P atmospheric pressure. So that's why I don't have any other terms from here or here. So that's why I have this equation. And coming to the gravity, it can be there in systems where it is significant enough. So when my radius is in orders of 10 power minus 6, this becomes very much larger than this term. So that's why we can neglect the gravity term here, and I have the beta is equal to 2 sigma cos theta by RL. I can take this beta and substitute here, I will get the U equation. Okay, fine. But are we interested in the velocity profile inside that small capillary, right? So we are more interested in averaging the things. So I get the average velocity by averaging across a cross section. So I have a circular cross section here of an radius capital R. Inside I have small r, and dr is my infinitesimal distance in the radial direction. So how do I get the uz averages? By integrating the overall uz into 2 pi r dr by into 2 pi r dr from 0 to r. So this will be my average velocity in the z direction, which I get as, so I think you guys can work out on this. So okay, I will do it. Which is my beta by beta by 4 mu into let me so from this we get this is 1 by 4 into r power 4 and this is minus 1 by 2 into r power 4. So that's why I'll get it is in the negative terms 2 pi beta by 4 mu into r power 4 by 4. So this negative you can understand because my beta is also negative here. So overall it is a positive velocity. Okay. So this is the average velocity in my z direction. But when coming to the flow in porous media, so basically porous media is connected pores in every direction, and if I want to understand the dynamics in my porous media, I can go and model all my capillaries by knowing the structure of each pore and find out the velocity and pressure inside every pore. Okay, that will be like I will be going till that level where I will model every pore separately, but that is a very painful and tedious job. But if you are interested in the averaging things, so we generally are interested in averaging things like in continuum approach. What we do, like we define a point, at that point the velocity means the velocity of a collection of molecules. So that's similarly when I have a porous media, like this, I have pores distributed like this. So I'll take an area of this. So I'll take the average of the flow in this length scale. So this length scale should be more than the pore radius, and also should not be very high that I just miss the velocity distribution inside the porous media. So I should not lose the variation of the velocity. So that's why I take this length scale, which is more than pore radius and less than length scale of system. So that's how we average the system. So when we come to this equation, so for a single capillary we have this equation. For a single capillary I know what is the beta. Right. So actually here 2 pi is gets cancelled by up and down. So So that's why I'll get this as r square by 8 mu, because I have this 2 pi into r square. Yeah. So here I have this as by 2 beta. This is my pressure gradient. And this is the proportionality constant to my uz. So you have seen this Ergun equation in Packard Betts, right, where you relate the velocity to the pressure gradient. So this is similar to that equation. When it comes to the average of a capillary, so we generally assume it as a bundle of capillaries. So my pressure gradient will be similar there. So that's why we write this uz as minus Kp by mu into del P, which is my Darcy's law. So actually this Darcy's law was founded by experiments only, and later on they have come up with the explanation by deriving through the momentum equations and equation of continuity. So I will be getting this, where my Kp is the permeability of the porous media. So permeability is the property of a porous media with respect to each liquid. So it depends on the molecule size of the liquid and also the porosity of the porous media. If my porosity is more, the permeability is more for that porous media. And also this is viscosity. So the flow is very much dependent on the viscosity of the liquid. So this is the Darcy's law. Wherever you read the flow in porous media, this will be like the basic equation you will be getting for the flow in porous media. Okay, so we are mostly interested in the penetration length inside the porous media, right? So when I have some porous media, this L is the penetration length, which is changing with the time. So I want to know at a given time what is my penetrated length. So that's why I can write this uz as dl by dt is equal to minus Kp by mu into del P, right? This del P I can write as delta P by L, because my flow is in unidirectional. Okay, when it comes to dimensional, you can write this for all the 3 directions. So when I integrate this equation, I will be getting as L square is equal to minus Kp by mu delta P into T. So from here I get the equation like L is equal to so my L is proportional to T power half. So this is there for a single capillary or also in a porous media. So this is the proportionality we get for any flow, and this is called as my Lucas-Washburn equation. So to get a better understanding of this flow, we have done an experiment. So we took a paper. I will show you the video. You can see that there is a paper substrate only, and we have used the toner to create hydrophobic surface here. This black thing is hydrophobic. So my pores here in the white surface, everything is hydrophilic, and the flow will happen through those pores. And the black thing is just to create a unidirectional flow in this paper we have created. And we have used one dye to measure how this is penetrating with time. This is just a 20 microliter dye. So you can see, so this whole length is of about 5 centimeter, and this will go with time, change with time. This was just recorded with a mobile phone. Okay, so you can use such devices to detect any analytes, even for detecting the diseases in blood samples or urine samples, you can use it. Like in glucometer also, we have similar thing, but it is electrochemical measurement. And we have took snaps of this. By calibrating the length, this is 5 centimeter, I can find out what is this length at each time. That's how we have plotted this experimental data. So with time, I have these markers for different times, and we have fitted this equation with L square proportional to T equation. That's how it fits.